And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to episode 159 of the Hoosier Sound, where we are the official podcast of Indiana HQ. Our mission and goal is simple. We want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage for Indiana University sports to as many fans as possible across a multitude of modern. We are recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on September 15th, 2020. We've got 3.5 months to go in this stupid year. Where I'm your host, Nithin Krishnan. And here with me tonight is Matt Lukens, longtime Hoosier Sound podcast veteran. Matt, do we need to bring up how the Eagles did on Sunday, or are we just gonna ignore? Are you tanking for Trevor Lawrence? Is that what's happening?
Oh my God. The Bears win one come from behind game, and your star wide receiver just requested a trade, and you're the one grilling me about the Eagles. I don't want to hear anything. You were down like three offensive linemen mid-game. Of course, I don't need to remind Hoosier fans what Chase Young can do to offensive lines. He was doing that to the Eagles on Sunday. And it was just a terrible game. It's fine. We'll go back. We'll beat the Rams next week, and we'll make the Cowboys look like sissies for losing to them. And boom, Super Bowl's back on the table, baby.
Of course, yeah. No big deal. I look like the Eagles could have used Mitch Trubisky on Sunday. I'll tell you that.
Stop it.
What?
That hurt you to say. I know that physically hurt.
Well. Bringing in the heat. All right, Hoosier Nation. Now that you're probably desperately begging us to change the subject, it's time for us to talk about a really interesting topic tonight. Look, I understand many of you since the start of March, that night where the entire college basketball world shut down, you've probably said, screw it, this pandemic stinks. I have no idea what's going on in the world of college basketball. You look around the sports world right now, or the last few weeks, if not months, you've seen soccer on your TV. You've seen the NBA return. College football and the NFL have kicked off this month in some capacity. But where's college basketball? What's going on? Well, look, if you have no clue what news has hit the wires over the course of the last few months, that's why you listen to our show tonight. We're here for you. We're here to bring you a quick summary of what's going on in the world of college basketball, Indiana's basketball schedule for this upcoming basketball season, as well as all sorts of other fun stuff. So the most important thing that all of you need to know is that tomorrow, and for us, tomorrow is Wednesday, September 16th, the NCAA Division I Council is going to hold a vote. And this vote is to determine exactly what the start date for the college basketball season will be for the 2020-21 campaign. ESPN's Andy Katz said after this decision comes to fruition, they'll release even more details as far as scheduling goes for the different programs across college basketball. Katz, who works for ESPN, and he's worked for ESPN a long time, he says he'll be surprised if we don't see all the non-conference games first and then the conference games in order. So you won't see conference games in the non-conference part of the schedule, and you won't see random non-conference games in the conference portion of the schedule. Right now, there are a few dates being thrown around. November 10th, which is less than 2 months from now, was the original start date proposed way back in years and years ago, and the NCAA put their future schedules together. That's still in play. You may also see a start date on November 21st, which is a Saturday, the 23rd, which is a Monday, and the 25th, which is a Wednesday. So, Matt, I'm just going to toss it over to you. When you hear that report from Andy Katz about the big Division I Council vote on Wednesday, and again, many of you might be listening to us on Wednesday, what do you make of it? From either an IU standpoint or just an overall college basketball standpoint?
Well, I'll take it from the overall standpoint first, which is that it's good news. I think it's good news that they're trying to find solutions for the basketball season, and it's good news that we're going to get a non-conference schedule. We all want non-conference basketball. Non-conference college basketball is really fun, and one of the better parts of the sport. So I really hope that they do that. Now, for an IU's perspective, that means the Maui Invitational is back on the board. The likes of the Gavitt games are back on the board. and the ACC Big Ten Challenge. All these things are really good for IU basketball. Get really good national exposure, not only on TV, but then you also get really good matchups against good teams that can help you later on in the season, either schedule-wise, when you're looking at, I meant resume-wise, when you're looking at, NCAA tournament projections, or even just like tape. Like, again, playing against different teams with different kind of defensive structures, right? When it gets to the Big Ten, you're like, we've seen a zone before because we played Syracuse in the non-conference. Anyways, that hurt me to say. But look, from an IU perspective, I think this is a great thing. And when you're thinking about like the possible solutions to this, you're looking at maybe a bubble format, right? For the non-conference schedule. So, hey, for these 3 weeks, you're in this bubble with these teams. So everybody plays a round robin. Everybody plays each other twice. And then, and in this week, you play everybody twice here. And then they're in another bubble. So that's something they could look at, especially with the, how the NBA bubble has gone as I'm watching on my second monitor, the Miami Celtics game that's going on. So the success of that has really, I think, propelled basketball forward into this could maybe happen into this is definitely happening. It's just, how is it going to happen now?
Exactly. And the one thing to remember is that these are unprecedented times in so many different ways, right? I mean, I'll just Matt, how about this? Like right now they're thinking of starting the season on a Saturday, on a Monday, or in the middle of the week. Like, just based on that, is there any particular day of the week you think would work best for the NCAA to get the ball rolling?
Probably the weekend, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's off on the weekend. Everybody's ready to watch basketball on the weekend. So, like, why wouldn't the weekend be the best choice?
I mean, the one concern there is like maybe college football overshadows it, or some type of other sporting event overshadows it. I'm not sure what exactly is on the slate in November, just because all the seasons are sort of jumbled up in disarray right now. So I think that's interesting to think about. Something else here, John Rothstein, who works with CBS Sports, made an interesting point. Right now, many colleges in their academic schedules have put finals week around Thanksgiving time, right? Usually it's a couple weeks after Thanksgiving, and then you go off on your winter break. All of a sudden, that's something where, you've at least got a unique talking point if you're on the NCAA Division I Council. Could we potentially see a start to the season after Thanksgiving? I mean, that's definitely in play and something the D1 Council is going to have to think about. Something else that's interesting, there are reports, according to, I believe, CBS Sports, the overall CBS Sports college basketball team, that as far as postseason consideration is concerned, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Matt, they'll accept you for NCAA tournament consideration if you play somewhere between 13 and 28 games against Division I competition. I mean, could you imagine if you're on the NCAA tournament selection committee and you're trying to figure out, okay, this team played 16 games and this other team played 25 games. How do you determine that, Matt?
I mean, it's just going to be about quality of opponent then, right? Like, if you play 13 Division I teams, but they're all Power 5, upper major teams, right? Like, that's more quality than Gonzaga's schedule has, right? Where you play St. Mary's twice, but all those teams are Division I, right? So I think it's just all going to depend on the level of competition that you're playing.
Man, can you imagine? Like, I'm just thinking about it though. If we have sort of an uninterrupted season, and hopefully we do, with college basketball using like the NBA, for example, as somewhat of a template with the testing protocols and all that type of thing. I mean, if we have an uninterrupted season, to be sitting here on March 1st before the tournament and going, hey, this Big Ten team has faced 27 teams, but this Gonzaga or whatever, this West Coast Conference team has played 15 games. It's really strange to think about because, in all seriousness, one of the curveballs here, because of these unusual times, is that a lot of those mid-major buy-in games are at risk of being lost. A lot of the big-time Power 5 athletic programs like Indiana are going to be a little bit more hesitant to shell out the millions of dollars over the course of the entire non-conference season to bring in teams like Western Michigan or Nebraska Omaha to Bloomington. IU gets the win. Those athletic departments get a little cash. Everyone basically ends the day happy, unless Indiana loses. Then no one, only the little guy ends up happy. But a lot of those mid-major games, Matt, they're going to be wiped off the schedule. So, I mean, isn't this kind of interesting? You could potentially see a schedule where Indiana plays 18, maybe 20 Big Ten games, and then 10 really tough non-conference games. I mean, that's got to be kind of fun, don't you think?
That's going to be fun, but we're going to get a lot of teams in the NCAA tournament that are 15-15. I mean, might even get a couple teams in the NCAA tournament squeaking in there with a below 500 record. You have some teams are going 13-17, 14-16, like just around the 500 mark.
Yeah,
like that's what we're going to kind of get because they got to fill 68 teams into this valuation, and not there's enough spots for about 50%, a little bit more than of the Power Five or the Group of Five conferences. So.
Are you saying that the NCAA is not going to adopt what the ACC wanted a few days ago with including all 350 teams? Matt, what's wrong with you?
I mean, it sounds fun, but like if you go and look at like how that bracket would work, it's a mess. It's a weird number. It's a mess. It's just I don't know. I can't see Duke being the number one seed and then playing Chicago State to start off the NCAA tournament. Like, that's no fun.
What I mean, was that really the best the ACC could do after like?
It seemed lazy, honestly. You're right. It seemed like well, what could we possibly do for an NCAA tournament? Let's just throw everybody in there and see how it works. It's like, no, that's not fun. That's not what has been done since the beginning of the NCAA tournament. It used to be even more selective about who got into the NCAA tournament. Like, what?
It's one of the most idiotic solutions I've ever heard to a serious problem. Like right now, the NCAA presidents and the athletic directors are trying to come up with a legitimate solution to a difficult problem. Yeah. And when I heard that, the Mike Brays and the Mike Krzyzewskis of the world, really, really good basketball coaches, decided that, hey, we're going to issue a statement recommending all 350 Division I basketball teams play in an NCAA tournament. I just, I kind of wanted to, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the proper GIF I wanted to use, but nothing's coming to my head. Something with head banging against the wall.
It doesn't make any sense because the whole point of what they're trying to figure out is trying to prevent threats into the bubbles, right? Like there's a lot of factors when you have teams that go to IU, they go to Ohio State, they go to Nebraska, right? Because you can have the students from Nebraska could have a problem that infect the people from Ohio State, and they bring it back to Ohio State, and somebody from Ohio State brings it to Indiana, and then Indiana has a problem. Now everybody's messed up. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is trying to limit those options. So the 353 teams in one tournament is just like throwing that out the windows. Like, then why don't we always have 353 teams in the NCAA tournament? That makes no sense.
It was absolutely ridiculous. If those of you listening want to get more details on that, and you really shouldn't want to, but if you do want to, you can just Google ACC recommendation NCAA tournament, and you'll see the article. Jeff Goodman reported on it, and he did his job. It's not his fault. I mean, the problem was with the ACC recommending a ridiculous idea. So let's focus on the Maui Invitational, Matt. This is kind of the big news we got earlier this week. John Rothstein from CBS Sports reported that the 2020 Maui Invitational is expected to take place in either Asheville, North Carolina, or Indianapolis. The decision could come as early as this week. The field, once again, for those of you who may not remember off the top of your head, the field includes Indiana, North Carolina, Alabama, Stanford, Providence, UNLV, and Davidson. So my first question to you, Matt, is out of all the possibilities that existed, could you have predicted this end result?
I could have predicted Indianapolis. Indianapolis is very good at hosting events, and the NCAA headquarters is in Indianapolis, and it's an NCAA event. Kind of makes sense. Asheville, North Carolina was not on my list of cities. I don't even think it would be in the top 50 to host an event. But you can kind of tell where they're trying to go with this, and that is the two big draws for Maui Invitational are Indiana and North Carolina. And so they look in Indiana and North Carolina for possible solutions. Now, Indianapolis, to me, even though Asheville, I think, is a little bit further away from North Carolina's campus than Indianapolis is from Bloomington and IU, I think Indianapolis is a very good neutral venue because it's Indianapolis. It's where the NCAA tournament has been held so many times. That's where they host a lot of championships.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes sense. Indianapolis is really good at that. They can execute it very well there. They'll be around the NCAA headquarters there. I think it's just better to just do it in Indianapolis, and it makes sense. Now, seeing the Maui Invitational in the middle of winter in Indianapolis is going to be weird, but alas.
Well, what I'm thinking is, how they played in the Lahaina Civic Center out in Maui every year, and it's like that super cramped gym where everyone is like right up against the court. They got to play. One of these games, if not all of them, at just like high schools around Indianapolis, just to really get it.
Just at Butler. Just do it in the field out there at Butler. It's just playing in there. That'd be fun. I'd be down to root for IU, in that arena. It'd be fun.
Yeah. In fact, we're not going to go into too much detail on this, but even the idea of playing the entire Big Ten basketball season in an Indianapolis bubble, I think could be a feasible solution. Again, it's still up in the air. We haven't heard any news about it, but I can definitely envision all 14 Big Ten schools going through the season playing in locations in and around Indianapolis. You have so many great college gyms, high school gyms that you can use to get that done. Of course, you also have Bankers Life Fieldhouse, which I'm sure they'd be more than willing to help out with. So yeah, definitely something to think about. But yeah, I totally agree, Matt. Don't hold this tournament in Asheville, North Carolina, okay? And I understand maybe it's a little bit of a logistical solution. And hey, I'm happy that they're exploring their options. But come on, okay? Let's be real. This is clearly Asheville, North Carolina is the J.R. Smith to the Indianapolis LeBron James. I mean, that's really what this is when it's all said and done. Yes. Don't confuse this. Play the Maui Invitational in Indy if it comes down to those two cities. All right, it's time for Who Won the Week this past week in IU sports, and there were a lot of interesting storylines over the course of the week in the IU realm. I mean, I can just think of how Jordan Howard scored a touchdown the other day for Miami against New England, even though the Dolphins lost. I know Kyle Schwarber had a good week for the Cubs, the former Hoosier there. But I'm going to go with Jonathan Stever. And for those of you that may not know the name, Stever is a right-handed pitcher who's in the Chicago White Sox organization. And Stever rose very quickly up the ranks as far as the White Sox organization is concerned. But the White Sox decided they were going to call him up to the majors on Sunday because of the truncated schedule. The White Sox are in a playoff race. Every game really matters for them, and they called up Stever to soak up some innings, and Stever had a pretty good first career outing, which, by the way, came in a start for the White Sox in their 5-2 win over the Detroit Tigers. Stever pitched 3 2/3 innings. They have just a couple of hits, 1 run, walked 2, struck out 3 again. The White Sox won the game, which I'm sure if you ask Jonathan Stever, he said that'd be the most important thing. So the White Sox continue to roll on. Jonathan Stever made his major league debut. There are a ton of Hoosiers in the major leagues. It's remarkable what type of work that Tracy Smith and Chris Lamonis and now Jeff Mercer, the IU baseball manager, have put in as far as getting the Hoosiers, as many Hoosiers into the pros as possible. And then they're turning out really good results as well. I mean, we talked about Kyle Schwarber. Alex Dickerson's been mentioned on this podcast before. Caleb Barragar on San Francisco, and I'm sure I'm missing a bunch. So really good work by the IU baseball program in turning out pros, and you're going to see Jonathan Stever again, either in a starting or relieving role for the White Sox, very possibly in the playoffs. Don't be surprised. He has really good strikeout stuff.
Is this the best year for Chicago baseball in a
Oh,
very long time? I mean, they've both won World Series in the last 20 years, but they've both been like, neither of them have been good at the same time that the other one was good.
You're absolutely right. It's by far the best season as far as Chicago baseball is concerned. There's the only downside, of course, is that unfortunately no one's there to watch games at either Wrigley Field or whatever the White Sox Park is called. Because it's too bad because summer baseball in Chicago is one of the more underrated sporting experiences in all of the United States. So look, we've talked about sort of high-level college basketball news over the course of the last few weeks, if not months. Let's dig in a little deeper into the Indiana schedule. Okay, we've talked about how mid-majors, those cupcake games, if you want to call them. I mean, they're really not mid-majors; they're low majors that come into Bloomington for Indiana to whoop up on them. IU had NJIT scheduled for November 10th, Western Michigan for the 12th. Robert Morris in Nebraska, Omaha were on the schedule also. Matt, how do you picture IU's non-conference slate panning out? I mean, let me do this. You have creative control. You have to schedule 10 non-conference games for IU basketball this year. How are you doing it?
Yeah, you keep the tournament games. I think you play 3 or 4 games in the Maui Invitational. Play 3 games, then you play 1 game in the Gavitt Games, 1 game in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. So you keep those. So you got 5, and then you schedule 5 opponents which you think their defensive schemes are going to match those of Big Ten opponents. That means, if you're going to come up against teams that are going to be playing zone, invite a couple teams that are going to be playing zone. You're going to play some up-tempo offenses, bring in a couple up-tempo offenses. Look, I take 5 teams, and I take 5 local teams too. I would take a Valpo, right, over the likes of an NJIT. I think it's New Jersey Institute of Technology, so NJIT. And then I take a Butler over the likes of, but I think we're getting Butler anyways in the Crossroad Classic. So I think 4 games. You get a couple of the local mid majors. You play Indiana State again. But it might be good. The battle for Trey Kaufman, some might say. But yeah, so you go local, play some of the local mid majors. It'd be fun to watch on TV. Travel won't be that bad, and also you're dealing with the same kind of conditions with the virus, so there's a lot less risk as well involved with scheduling local teams.
I think you make a really good point, specifically on scheduling teams that are geographically close to Indiana, and there's so many benefits to this, right? Like you said, Butler's already on the slate for the Crossroads Classic. I expect that tournament will continue to run in some capacity. I'm not sure where or when, but it'll go. Not only is it just sensible in this day and age to schedule opponents that are close to you rather than across the country from you, but I don't think anyone can argue how rich the basketball tradition and the basketball culture is in the state of Indiana and in the Midwest in general. I think you can stretch it out to states like Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, places like that. I think Indiana's got to really start considering loading up on sort of mid-major or even high-major programs in and around the area. I want Indiana to take on Cincinnati if possible. I think that's a matchup. I'd love Indiana to take on Dayton. I don't know how difficult that would be to put together, and Dayton won't be as good as they were last year. Just throwing that out there because Obi Toppin has moved on to the NBA draft.
They're still going to be good, though.
They're still going to be good. Very well coached. Anthony Grant's a damn good basketball coach. But, I'd love to see those type of opponents get put on IU's schedule. I'm not even going to get into how complicated an Indiana-Kentucky matchup would be. I don't know what all the background stuff going on there is. But when it comes to the non-conference schedule, you've got your 6 games that you're probably playing no matter what. The 3 Mauis, the Big Ten ACC, the Gavitt, and Butler. With the 4 remaining, and look, I'm not sure if it'll even be 4. It might end up being 1 or 2 or 3. I want to see some of these mid-major, if not high-major schools in and around the area face the Hoosiers, like Cincinnati, like Dayton. I think Indiana State's a very interesting suggestion. Valpo, I think, would be awesome. Illinois State has had a good team for a while. I think that would be a really easy matchup to put together.
Battle of the Bloomingtons.
Battle of the Bloomingtons. That's right. Is it? Well, okay, I'm not going to get into that. Okay, so that's exactly the frame of mind that I have as far as the scheduling is concerned, and the great news is, Scott Dolson, new athletic director, he's going to have some freedom with this. He's going to have to get on the phone. In fact, the other day I saw a tweet from, who was it, the Army football athletic director, who basically said, our football team is COVID negative. We're looking for another COVID negative team to play a week from today. And I don't know what the result of that networking effort was, but that's what's going on nowadays. Athletic directors all across the country are saying, hey, if we're following the proper testing protocols, can we figure it out? Hit us up in the DMs. I mean, that's really what it's coming down to. It's crazy. It's crazy that it's crazy that we're in that position now. So
I'd be interested to see what those replies were to the Army athletic director, because nobody, after having a weird offseason, wants their first game to be against Army, because they're just run it down your throats, and they're very well conditioned because they're at West Point and they have to deal with all that jazz after school activities and such. That comes with being a West Point student. And they're like, anybody want to play us first games? Smile.
They've already started 2-0 this year, outscoring opponents 79-7. They play Cincinnati on September 26th, but their athletic director's trying to get somebody.
Cincinnati to you, by the way.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, well, yeah, the polls are all messed up now. With Big Ten and Pac-12 opting out, which we'll get into in just a minute. So, Matt, how about you tell us what your social media shout out is for this week? Because it looks like Nebraska maybe leaked something they shouldn't have.
Yeah, so there was a hot mic today at a press conference at Nebraska, and Nebraska's, was it president or athletic director? I think it was a president, was caught saying something about the Big Ten football season coming back. So that's the shout out, because we don't really have much to go on, and any good news is good news. So any news at all is good news. So we'll take it. They were whispering about an announcement later tonight. We're hopefully going to get it in the middle of the show, but as of 9:00 on a Tuesday, we don't have anything. So we'll let you know when we find out. Go follow us at Indiana HQ on Twitter. We'll be up to the date, up to the minute, retweeting, sending out our own articles and such about Big Ten football and what's happening there. So, go find us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, that's really the way we grow, just to be super transparent with all of you listening.
Yes.
If you tell people to tell people to tell people to go follow us at Indiana HQ on Twitter, at indiana.hq on Instagram. Once the football season and basketball season and all the other sports get up and running, you bet we're going to have articles and photographs and all sorts of fun stuff for all of you to follow, in addition to this wonderful podcast. So, Matt, let's talk about college football a little bit, right? I mean, I'm not sure if the Nebraska president will get into trouble. I don't know what the consequences are for leaking a little information like that. We have not heard any updates as far as Big Ten football is concerned tonight, like you said, as of 9:00. So one of the solutions that I saw thrown out there was an 8-game schedule starting in mid-October, a month from now. When you take that and you combine it with what you've seen in college football so far, what are your overall thoughts on the whole situation?
I mean, it's bad for IU because an 8-game Big Ten schedule takes away a couple of guaranteed wins off the schedule. But I'll take any Big Ten football we could get. And I think I speak for everyone when I want to see the IU football playing this year. There's a lot of expectations going into the season, if they were going to be good or not. They thought this was going to be one of the better years of IU football that we've seen. High-level talent. I really, really, really want to see the Hoosiers play. I assume that we're going to see them play there's too much interest in it now for it not to happen. The NFL has gone off so far without a hitch. Of course, it's only been 1 week. They played one game, but we'll see how it goes through week 2 or 3. And so far, college football has done the same thing. It has gone off, playing games-wise without a hitch now. LSU came out today and said a majority of their football players have gotten it. So it's not great news if you want football to continue to happen. But we'll see how things stand, in the next couple of weeks or so.
And Matt, I'll be perfectly honest. That sort of rained on my parade a little bit, to be perfectly honest with you. The LSU report, Texas Tech issued some frightening numbers as well, as far as the players are concerned. Look, I get it. Everyone has that huge itch to scratch right now as far as college football is concerned. But it's just so difficult when you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of 18 to 22-year-olds who have no obligation to play football for you. They're not professionals. They're not salaried. And look, it's great. It's great that a couple of weeks have come and gone in college football, and we haven't seen examples of the virus spreading during game action. And all indications are that right now programs that are playing are testing frequently, and they're holding out players who have tested positive, which is great. But at the end of the day, still, football seems to be too tall of a mountain to climb, if you ask me. I mean, what are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, our friend Andrew here saying he's tired of watching Clemson rout every opponent. I mean, that's the other part too. It's like, teams like Clemson and even Army, like we talked about a moment ago, right now they're not really able to play a lot of equal or greater opponents. They're just a lot of cupcake games. I don't know, man. Am I being too pessimistic here? Can you brighten the mood a little bit? Where am I missing this? Where am I missing the memo?
If teams properly, and I say properly, quarantine, if they create even a team bubble, like I don't know what programs have to do, but maybe even get the same apartment complex. Don't let them leave unless they're going to practice. Like there's a lot of stuff involved here, but the players want to play. I think Phil, you tweeted today, I miss football, right? Like the most players want to play. If they have an NBA future, an NFL future, they want to play. If they want to prove that they could be either a late round draft pick, maybe even move up the draft boards, they're going to want to play. The only players that aren't going to want to play are like the Trevor Lawrences, but he's leading the I want to play movement. So that's, I just think it's going to happen. Whether it happens and they have to stop it and then have to restart it, it's still going to happen because the interest is there, the money's there, the TV deals are there. They're going to figure out a way to make it happen because people want it to happen, and that's all that really matters.
Do you think? Let me just put you on the spot. Do you think it's worth it if you play 3 games and then as of November 1st they say, hit the brakes, we got to call the season?
I still think it's worth it because then we get to see the players play. Like I hate not knowing what this IU football team would look like.
Sure.
Now, is it going to be a little painful if we can only see them play 3 games and that's it? That's the stat. That's the last time we see Fillier in an IU uniform in 3 games. Yeah, I'll be a little sad about it. But like at the same time, we have to, especially in 2020, we have to take what we can get. We can't take anything for granted, right? If we can see them play even just a little bit, that's all I want to do. I want to sit on my couch on a Saturday, drinking a beer, watching us play Wisconsin. That's all I want to do right now. And so far that has not happened, but hopefully they figure it out and make it happen.
Really, of all the teams in the Big Ten, you picked Wisconsin, man?
Well, that's the one we were supposed to play first. I mean, come
on. I don't know, man. I would legitimately pick every other team. Now, I know what you're saying with the schedule, but oh man, give me, yeah.
Let's go Rutgers first.
Well, okay, let's banish Rutgers. Okay, I don't even want to.
Nebraska.
Yeah, sure. Nebraska. Maybe a little revenge action against Michigan State, which is still kind of sticking in my craw after that loss to the Spartans last year. But yeah, I mean,
like 6 years ago, by the way. That podcast that we did was like less than 12 months ago, and it feels like 6 years ago.
I feel like I've aged 6 years since March, at least. I mean, so when you think about college basketball, Matt, when you think about college football and Big Ten specifically, I mean, what are your closing thoughts and summary as to where things are going? It's kind of your floor here. I'll let you take it away.
I think it's promising where things are going. I really hope that obviously something scientific happens that we don't, so magically the coronavirus disappears. That'd be great. I'd be very happy if that was to happen. But as of now, we can't really get our hopes up too much. Again, it takes a while for, I don't know the science, but it takes a while for them to come up with vaccines and whatnot. So anything we can get right now, like what I have stressed on this podcast, anything we get, I'll take it. I'm sure you guys will too. Yeah. So if they're even trying to start up, that's a move in the right direction. It'll get the guys franchised again, wanting to go to practice, getting pumped up and ready for game day, sitting there watching film for week one. Like that's all good stuff. Getting back to any sense of normalcy, whether it's watching college football, being able to walk outside and enjoy crowds again, like anything like that.
Yeah.
It's the little steps, right? It's the little steps. It's all that matters.
Yeah. I can guarantee you coronavirus is not disappearing. But I did see a note the other day that the Big Ten is trying to get their hands on a more rapid test as far as how quickly the results come. As far as how quickly the results come back to the players and to the athletic departments, and that's something that could be a huge development. And for all of you asking the question, oh, how come the Big Ten's changing their mind now compared to last month or 2 or 3 months ago? My final thought is that it's all a very fluid situation still. It's fluid in football. It's fluid in basketball. The type of thing that changes, I'm telling you right here and now, it's all of a sudden every single Big Ten football program or every single, Power 5 college basketball program or the NCAA as a whole getting their hands on a test that gives you faster results than a test that's more reliable, getting their hands on some type of, detective and reactive medication if they can find it to give to players that do test positive, sharper and cleaner protocols that they look at the NFL, the professional league and see what they did, or the NBA, the professional league there and see what they did. And you can use that as your blueprint. So that's the stuff that changes. The protocols change, the treatments change, the tests change, and they evolve and they develop like we all do in life. So that's really what it comes down to as far as why everything as far as this, the football season, the basketball season concerned, everything is subject to change. And so that means next week we might have a podcast where we tell you some 100 things that are completely different. So make sure all of you tune in. So, folks, that about wraps it up for our 159th episode of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. We're trying to do the best we can right now during off season, which has gone on for 6 months here. So we're trying to give you topics that are fun and exciting and easy to listen to and talk about. Thank you to our live audience. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ to make sure you don't miss any more in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, for everything in one place. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, this is important, leave us a review. Tell a friend, share our links. Your support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. But as always, thank you.